Hello YouTube, Merry New Year. Glenn Anderson here, the Natural Strongman. So here today I'm going to try and talk about programming really, and why a lot of times the programs that you'll find online may be subpar or inferior, and what you can actually do to better program yourself and get more strength and better performance. Okay, so the problem with a lot of programs you'll see online, like you know, increase your bench press by 40 pounds with my 8-week program, you know, or, you know, gain 50 pounds on your deadlift in 8 weeks and all that. And a lot of these programs online promise big gains in a very short period of time. And I've got to admit, in the past, I bought a lot of them programs like 10, 12 years ago when I was just starting out and all that. And don't get me wrong, some of them were good. They had some good general ideas. But the problem with most programs, especially like the ones where you buy them once and you run them for 8 or 10 or 12 weeks, the problem with a lot of them is most of them are just peaking programs. Okay, they will only peak your strength. So let's have a look at some peaking programs and how a typical peaking program might run, and then later on I'll explain like why that's good, what's not so good, and what you can do instead. So let's dive into it now and take a closer look. Okay, so here's an example of some peaking programs. You've probably seen some of these before. So for example, you might run an 8-week peaking program. The idea to start with lightweight and then over time gradually decrease your reps, decrease maybe your sets, decrease your volume, and increase the weight over time. So on the first week you might do three sets of 12. On the second week you might do 3 sets of 10. On the third week 3 sets of 8. On the fourth week you might go down to 3 sets of 6, 3 sets of 5. On the 6th week 2 sets of 3. On the 7th week you might take a deload, and on the 8th week you might take a 1 rep max, or sometimes on the 7th week you might do 2 sets of 2. I always think it's a good idea to do a deload a week before you're going to take a max, but a lot of the programs, some of them don't have that and will just literally work you down 5 reps, 3 reps, 2 reps, and then you max out on the 8th week or the 10th week. So that's what a typical peak might look like. Very simple, very easy to run. Another example, I found this on, this is a typical example of what Ed Cohen would do. This is actually a sample squat routine from Ed Cohen's book actually, which is called The Man, the Myth and the Method, which is a really good book actually, and it's got lots of good stuff in it. So for example, let's say your max on the squat is 300 pounds and you want to increase your max in 10 weeks. So he's even prescribed some poundages that you can use. So on the first week you would squat 205 pounds for 2 sets of 8. On the second week you would up it to 215 pounds, 2 sets of 8. On the third week 230, 2 sets of 5, 240, 2 sets of 5. On the 5th week 250, 2 sets of 5, and so on. 260, 2 sets of 3, 275, 2 sets of 3, 285, 2 sets of 3, 295, 2 sets of 2, and then on the 10th week you're supposed to take a max, which he reckons you could theoretically get 330. So in the space of 10 weeks you could increase your squat by 30 pounds. For someone that only squats 300, that's probably quite practical actually. When you're just starting off, your gains are going to be big, but obviously the bigger and stronger you get, the more advanced you get, obviously the gains are going to be slower. Okay, I'll give you an example of another linear program. This is one that I actually use to help my strict log, and it did work a charm. Like I say, these peaking programs are good, I'm not saying they're not, but the thing is that you can't keep, a lot of them are all peaking programs and you can't keep doing that over and over. So like I say, I'm going to get through this last one and then we'll have a look at some other things that you can do. So with my log press, I run an 8-week peaking program on my strict log. So I would clean the log once and then press it strictly for reps. So on the first week I did 2 sets of 8 and I used 85 to 87.5 kilos. So on the first set I did 85 kilos for 8 reps, and on the second set I did 87.5 for 8 reps. So that's my 2 sets. RPE 8 there, so again it should be tough, but you should feel like you could have done more. You don't want to grind, you don't want to go all out. On the second week, again 2 sets of 8, but this time to an RPE 9, so slightly higher RPE and slightly more load. So for my first set I did 90 for 8, and on my second set I did 92.5 for 8. I actually run this in January 2020, so exactly a year ago I started doing this peaking program. So on the third week 2 sets of 7, on my first set I did 95 for 7, and on my second set I did 97.5 for 7 RPE night. Again, these were quite easy really. So on the third week, 3 sets of 5, and I wanted to end on a 5 rep max to about RPE 9.5ish. So again, very hard and tough, but not quite all out, still holding back a little bit on the load. So on my first set I did 102.5 for 5. On my second set I did 105 for 5, and on my third set I did 107.5 for 5. On the 5th week you drop 20% of the weight and do 3 sets of 5, so you do exactly what you did on the previous week, but with 20% less weight. So I just used 85, because the red log that I use at the gym is 85 kilos, so I just used an empty log, 85 for 5, 87.5 for 5 and 90 for 5, and that was it done, and that was easy. So then on week 6 I upped it a bit, 3 sets of 3, and again with the third set I wanted to end on a 3 rep max. So I did 110 for 3 reps on the first set. Second set was 115 for 3, but that was quite tough. But I knew I had a little bit more there, so I went for 116 and just about got 3. That was very tough. And then the week after that, 3 sets of 2, 120, because I'm only doing 2, because I've dropped the reps, it's a bit easier now. So I managed 120 for 2, and then I got 125 for 2. And that wasn't too bad actually. So on the 8th week, I took a 1 rep max. I got 127.5, and then I finished on 132.5, because my previous best before that was 130, so I did 132.5 for a new 1 rep max, so that worked out perfectly fine. So this is pretty much the gist of peaking cycles really. You'll do 8, 10, 12 weeks, start with a lightweight and build it up, so that the idea being of course that you finish on a 1 rep max at the end of the peaking cycle. Here's the problem though. Peaking phases are only going to get you so far. Think of a pyramid. Okay, the foundation has to be strong. The bigger the base, the higher the peak. If you keep peaking all the time, you're only going to get so much height, you're only going to get so much strength. There's a difference between building strength and exhibiting strength. You know, if you lift a big weight for 1 rep, okay, you're not really building strength, you're just exhibiting strength or testing strength. And this was something that was like a hard pill for me to swallow in the very early years of my training and all that. I kept maxing out a lot and all that, and that would only get me so far. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a total complete waste of time, but you really need to build that foundation, that base, and that's something that I really had trouble with doing in, like I say, the early years, and it really took a lot of time before I finally realised where I was going wrong. Because the thing is, you get a lot of guys, especially in strongman and all that, they're like, I've got this like competition in March or whatever, so they'll peak for that, and then there's competition I want to do like in a couple of months, so they'll do like an 8-week peak again for that, and then there's one I want to do in the summer, so they're just peaking strength for the competitions, but then just staying the same really, or maybe they're gaining a little bit but not much, you know. So they're basically just extracting their strength really. They're just peaking the strength that they've already got, but they're not building any new strength. So this is where you want to go from peaking to accumulation, which I'm going to get into in a minute. I'll show you some sample accumulation blocks that you can do. So if you look, here's, like I say, your pyramid. As you can see, it's not got much of a base, so the peak isn't very high, whereas this pyramid, as you can see, the base is much bigger and wider, so the peak is high. So you want to build your accumulation, you want to accumulate and build your volume, get your technique right, and just get your reps and sets in and get lots of practice and get better, so that your strength will go up accordingly. So when you eventually do peak and get a 1 rep max, you'll do so much better. Once I started implementing this into my training, I did so much better, and I've got a 310 kilo deadlift now. My log's 145 kilos. I really have made big improvements. You know, if you look at my channel over the years and all that, you can see my technique's got better. I actually cringe sometimes when I look back at some of my old videos from like 8 or 10 years ago, from like my form and all that. But as you can see, my poundages have built up gradually over the years. Obviously, I'm natural, so it has taken me longer and all that. But like I say, I'm doing so much better now because I've finally understood this concept. And if you do too, it will take you on to better things. Okay, so we're going to talk now about instead of just peaking all the time, what you should do instead. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of sample accumulation blocks that you can do. So these will help in a big way. They'll help build that base. They'll help you get lots of technique practice in and lots of volume as well to help build muscle mass. So these are 2 accumulation blocks I'm actually going to use myself personally. Starting from next week, I'm going to start an accumulation block. So I'm going to use these protocols on some of the lifts I'm doing. So for example, right, so I like to work in 8-week blocks. So if you want to get stronger, you don't just want to peak all the time. It's a good idea to do like an 8-week accumulation block and then maybe do an 8-week peak, or maybe do an 8-week accumulation block, then do another 8-week accumulation block, and just put your head down and focus on getting stronger. That's what I'm going to do. I like to just do 1 comp a year. I think one of the reasons why I've continued to progress and all that is because I've cut down my comps. I'm only doing 1 comp a year. So all the rest of the time I'm just training and putting my head down and just focusing on getting better. Yes, I do max out sometimes a little bit more than I should, but like I say, from next week I'm going to really knuckle down and, you know, get with it. And you can follow me in my training if you want. Please subscribe to the channel. I will post my workout, so if there's anyone who's curious as to how like this works in action, I'm going to be posting along my workout so you can follow along with me as well. And if you've got any questions, let me know in the comments below. So I'll show you some stuff that I'm going to do on the accumulation. This is what I'm going to do myself personally. So for example, one of the exercises I'm going to do is incline bench press. So I'm going to do a 20 rep accumulation block here, and you end on an 8 rep max on the 8th week. So on the first week you'll do 20 reps. However, when you do your 20 reps, it's important you want a nice lightweight. A lot of you have probably never done 20 reps before. I've rarely done it. I've done it a few times, but some of you watching this video probably haven't done 20 reps before. Maybe you've done 3, 5, 8, maybe 10. So it's very, very important that you really want to, it's better to undershoot this. Okay, let's say, I mean, take me for example, my best incline bench press is 150 kilos, and that wasn't to failure. So I might literally just do 50% of this. I might, on the incline, I might just do 75 kilos, 80 kilos, and do 20 reps. Maybe I might even start at 70. I don't know yet. I'll probably start. Bear in mind, because it's 20 reps and because it will fatigue you, you probably just want to do 1 set. You might, if you shoot way too low, you might be okay to do a 2nd set, but you will fatigue quite quickly. I would really err on the side of caution and go lighter on this. Okay, it's the first week. It's an introduction week. This is basically just finding your feet, really. So you just want to do your 20 reps, but again, you want to. It needs to be easy. You don't want to struggle with this at all. You should be able to do this easy. You shouldn't need a spotter, and you should have plenty of reps in the tank. You really want to feel with this 20. You want to walk away feeling you could have done 23 reps or 25. So nice, easy 20 reps. You will then stay with the same weight and do 3 sets of 10, and you really want to finish with like an RPE 7 or 8 or something. Like I say, it needs to be easy. So let's say, for example, I do 75 kilos for 20 reps, but I feel, yeah, I could have done 23, 25. I will then stay with that 75, and I will do 3 sets of 10. Rest times, 2 to 3 minutes should suffice. But if you're feeling, like I say, 20 reps, even if it's easy, could take a lot out of you. So you might need 4 or 5 minutes. But just do your 3 sets of 10 afterwards. So you're basically doing your 20 reps, and then you're cutting that number in half, which is 10, and you're doing 3 sets of that. So it's quite simple. Now on the 2nd week, you want to do the same again, but this time you want to use more weight. The first week you should figure out roughly what kind of weight you should be using. So let's say I use 75 on the first week. On the 2nd week, I might think, yeah, I can go 10 more. So I might use 85. I might even go to 90, it depends. And then I will do 20 reps. But I want to do it in a fashion where it's an RPE 9. I want to do it to where I feel like I could have done 21 reps, maybe 22. So again, you don't want to go all out. Remember, this is an accumulation block, so you don't really want to be going to failure here. You don't want to be maxing out here or nothing. So you do need to watch this and keep an eye on this, really. If you're not sure, go lighter. Trust, go lighter. Okay. If I do 20, like I say, if I do 75 on the first week, and I feel like I could only do 23, then on the second week I might just do 80 or 85. I'm not going to push it to 90 unless 75 is ridiculously easy and I feel like I could have done 30 reps. Okay, so if you're not sure, go lighter. If you're not sure about 85, do 80. Okay, and then of course you just want to do 2 sets of 10, but again, you don't want to go to failure on this. If you do your back off set and you can only manage 8, then stop at 7, and then I would just say, well, you've got 20 reps to do there, so just maybe do 2 sets of 7, and then on the third set do 6 if you can't manage 10. But if the weight is manageable, you should be able to get 2 sets of 10. But if you can't, then just do less reps. Remember, you don't want to be training to failure. If you get to 7 reps and you feel like you're not sure about 8, stop at 7, and then on your second set, maybe see if you get 7 again, and then 6, and then that gives you your 20 reps. So on the third week, you want to drop to 15, but again, it wants to be nice and easy, and then of course 3 sets of 8. You want to hold back because you're going to do the same again. You're going to do 15 reps on the 4th week, but with more weight. So you might do 90 kilos for 15, and then you might do 95. You might even manage 100. Let's say you do 100 for 15 on the 4th rep, but you feel like you could have gone 16 or 17, then that's perfect. That's what we're looking for. You want to feel like you could have done 1 more. You shouldn't need a spotter. You should be able to walk into it confidently. Okay, you shouldn't have to get psyched up even though. Like I say, this accumulation stuff, when I do it as well, I'm probably not going to wear elbow sleeves or wrist wraps. This should be easy stuff really. You're just building that base. You're getting the skill in. You're practicing your skill. You're getting the hypertrophy. You're building the muscle. You're building that base. So no failures. It should be easy work. It should be tough, but no failures. You should be able to walk away feeling better than when you started. Okay, so on the 5th week, you now want to increase the weight a bit and go for 10 reps, and then use that same weight and do 3 sets of 6. So maybe by now you might be up to 105. But again, like I say, you want to hold back because you're going to do the same again on week 6, but this time build to a heavier 10 reps, and then you might get 110. Like I say, these are just example weights. Let's say you get 110 and you feel like you could have done 11 or 12, that's perfect. And then use that same weight, 2 sets of 6. Again, try to make it so it's an RPE 9. If you do 4 reps and you feel like you're not sure about the 5th rep, stop at 4. And then, well, that's 12. So if you do 3 sets of 4, that's just as good. Okay, so on the 7th week, now you want to drop to 8 reps. So again, doing 8 reps, holding back, you might be on 115 by now. Then you want to drop 10% of that weight, so that will be 11 kilos. So let's just say you drop to 105, and then you'll do 4 sets of 4 with that. And then on the 8th week here, now you take pretty much a true 8 rep max. So let's say you do 120, but you feel like you could have done 12 reps. Then you've gone to about RPE 6 or 7, okay? So you've not gone RPE high enough. So maybe you go to 120 and you go to 8 reps and you feel you could, it was tough, but you might have got 9, that's perfect. It doesn't have to be an extreme 8 rep max. You don't have to go all the way to 8 rep max. You can hold back a little bit. Remember, this is accumulation, so it's not absolutely necessary to go to failure. You can do a top 8 set that's heavy, but not quite to failure, okay? So I hope that makes sense. So that's a really good one too. I'm going to do it myself, So watch my videos if you want to see this in action, and hopefully that will help guide you. So another one that I'm going to do to build my base and get all that volume in is, this I'm going to do on the log press. So it's going to be 1 clean and then push press, because push press is something I'm weaker at on the log. So my 1 rep max on the log is 145 kilograms. So on the first week, I'm going to do 7 sets of 6. I'm going to start off 50%, but I'm only going to increase the load every 2 reps. So of course, 50% for me is 72.5. So I'll start 72.5 kilos. I'll do 1 clean, I'll do 6 reps. I'll rest 2 or 3 minutes, then I'll do another 6 reps. That's 2 sets. That's probably going to be ultra easy. So what I might do is I might increase to 77 kilos. Then I will do 2 sets of 6. This now gives me 4 sets. And then if that's easy, I might increase to 82 and do 2 sets of 6. This now gives me 6 sets. and then on the final 7th set, I might go up to 92. So again, it's easy work. The first week will be very easy. It'll be lots of sets, lots of reps, lots of volume, easy weight, not pushing myself, but making sure that when I've got the log on my chest, that I'm concentrating on getting my head back and getting that technique absolutely perfect, because that's where I struggle, is the push press. On the second week, I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to start at a slightly higher weight, 52%, so I'm guessing that'll probably be about 75 kilos roughly. And I'm going to use the same protocol. Every 2 sets I'll increase the weight, so long as it feels good and I feel like I'm getting good, snappy technique in. The third week, I'll do 7 sets of 5, bit more weight now. Still 7 sets, start at 55%, so I'm starting at more weight, so I'm guessing that'll probably be about 77 kilos roughly. On the fourth week, I will do the same again with 57. On the third week, that'll just be an easy deload, 3 sets of 5, so I'll probably use 40-50%, just easy 3 sets of 5 that shouldn't even break a sweat. On week 6, I will do 7 sets of 4, so now we've upped the weight again, so now up to 60%, so I'm guessing that'll probably be around the 85 kilo markish, I'm not sure. I'll work that out before. And then on the 7th week, I'll do 7 sets of 4, start 62%, and increase. And hopefully with this, I'm looking to do a really tough set of 4. I've got no idea, I don't really want to give any poundages because it's going to be different for everybody. But on that 7th week, that last set of 4, I want it to be really tough. I want to feel like I could have got 5, but it was tough. And then I'll know that I've not only built my base, but I've also got some good intensity there, so I'm still building strength at the same time. And then on this 8th week, 4 sets of 4, start 60%, but I want to finish on the second to last set with last week's weight. So, for example, let's say I start 62, so that's about, let's say I start 90 kilos, I do 2 sets of that. And then I do 100 kilos for 4, 2 sets of that. So that's 4 sets completed. And then let's say I go to 110, and then I go to 120. So let's say on week 7, let's say for example, just for argument's sake, let's say on the 7th set I do 120 kilos and I get 4 reps. So that means that I would want to do, instead of finishing on 120, this week I'd finish on 120, but on this week I might just finish on 110. So on the last week I want it to be slightly less volume, slightly less weight. So on the last week we're only doing 4 sets of 4 and just finishing on 110. Okay, so I hope this makes sense so far. These are just good ones. However, you have to use a bit of a brain on here because we're all different. Let's say you're a beginner and you want to build that base and all that. You might not need 7 sets. You might only need 3 or 4 sets. You might be a beginner where you don't need that lot of volume. If you're a beginner or close to being a beginner, 2 sets of 6 or 3 sets of 6 might suffice for you. You might not need any more than that. I'm quite an intermediate advanced lifter. I'm close to a 700 pound deadlift. My log press is well over 300 pounds. I've been lifting for a very long time. So for me, I need a bigger base in order to increase and make the gains. But if you're a newbie, you might not need that. On the other hand, if you're very intermediate advanced at all, you might need 10 sets to build that base. So again, look at what you're doing and work it out accordingly. For example, let's say your log press, let's say you're going to use 100 kilos. If you're a beginner, you might only need 2 sets of 6. So that's only 12 reps total, which gives you a 1200 kilo total on your log. That's all the volume you might need. Whereas if I'm using 100 kilos, 7 sets of 6 is 42. So that's 4,200 kilos of volume on the log. For me, that's going to be more than that because I'm going to be, at some point, I'll be going over 100 kilos in my lifting, obviously, of course. But like I say, you might need 10 sets. I like to use a logbook because I don't just write down how much weight I lift. I don't just write down how many sets. I don't just write down how many reps. At the end of it, I actually work out my volume. I think on deadlift, I've done my highest amount of volume on deadlift is 20,000 pounds of volume. On the log press, I believe my log press, I think I've done about 7,000 pounds of volume in one session on that. So I need to look at that and go, right, that's what I've done, and maybe in order to progress, I might need to do more volume. So like I say, don't just jump in blindly and follow these figures. If you're a beginner, you might need less. So that's like I say, these are two ways. I mean, if you'd like me to talk about more program and all that, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more videos like this. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up now, but basically, you know, the message of this video, the takeaway, is basically don't just keep peaking. Take some time, lay down the foundation, build up your volume, build up your reps, get the technique in, get the practice in, practice your reps over and over. Once I did that, my form started clearing up, I started getting stronger, and I'm hitching my deadlifts less. With log press and axle, my clean was always good, but once I got the log to the chest, I struggled getting it overhead. So because I took the time to do this and worked on that push press, which I'm going to continue to do, so hopefully I'll improve. I'm looking to get a 150 kilo log in 2023, at least, maybe more, and my goal for deadlift is at least £700 or 317 kilos. So I'm going to do this accumulation block for 8 weeks. I'll see how I get on with that. Then I might do another accumulation block, or I might do a peak. But it's always good, if you do an accumulation block and then do a peak, you can't go far wrong. Sometimes it might be a good idea to, especially if you're an advanced lifter, maybe do 2 accumulation blocks. So do 8 weeks of accumulation, then do another 8 weeks of accumulation, then maybe do a peak. You know, you really want to, peak should be spaced further and further out, so you can work on building that foundation, so you can build that height and build that strength. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you'd like to see more videos on programming, just let me know in the comments below. Okay, cheers guys, and have a Merry New Year.